Hi, everyone. We're going to continue talking today about our radical expressions. And today we're going to talk about how to add and subtract our radical expressions. So we can add and subtract radicals pretty easy. We're going to think about this kind of like fractions. You can put fractions together that have like or unlike denominators. So you can add or subtract radical expressions that have the same index and radicand. So what that means is that they both have to be like both a square root, right? So the radicand, remember, is the number under the radical. And the same index is something like a square root or a cubed root or a fourth root. But remember, in our course of study, we're only going to talk about square roots. So we're looking for things that have the same exact numbers under the radical. So, for example, if I want to add radical 3 and then 2 more radical 3's, right? They are both just plain old square roots, and they both have a radical 3. So that means that what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the number out in front, right? Remember, we got a number here, we got a number here. We're going to add the coefficients. So 1 and 2 together are going to make 3. And we're going to leave that radicand all alone, radical 3. Okay. I can double check my answers by going to my calculator. If I take the square root of 3 and I add 2 radical 3, and I hit enter, I can double check. That's going to be the same as 3 radical 3. All right, so I can double check my math there. Okay. So if I want to add the coefficients, right, and we leave the common radicand. Okay. So a couple of examples like this. All right, so we'll do example 2. All right, so if I want to do something like 2 radical 5, and I want to add, let's say, 6 radical 5's. So again, I'm going to take a look at my coefficients, take a look at the fact that I have a common radical. So I put these two together, add those. So 6 and 2 is going to give me 8 radical 5's. Let's try another one. Let's say I have a radical 7x, and I want to take away 3 radical 7x. So again, same common radicand. So 1 out here. I want to combine my coefficients. So a 1 minus a 3. There's a negative 2 radical 7x. The radicals over the expression there. Now, what if they don't have a common radical? So let's say I want to add something like radical 5 plus 2 radical 2 plus 6 radical 5. Now, kind of like having same terms, like expressions. So I've got this one and this one can go together. So together that's going to give me 7 radical 5's. And since nothing matches with this, I'm just going to tack that on the end, plus 2 radical 2. So if they don't have a common radical, then I might I can't combine them. But sometimes things might look like they're different, but they might be the same. But some of them may just need to be simplified. All right, so if I take a look, let's say example 5 here. Let's say I want to add 5 radical 3 and radical 12. Now, it looks like they're not the same. I have a radical 3, I have a radical 12. But what I want to do is I want to put this in simplest radical form. So we talked about last time how you break this up into its biggest perfect square times its other factor. So this is actually 2 radical 3 in surprise. So now I have 5 radical 3 plus 2 radical 3. It's going to give me 7 radical 3. So sometimes I just need to simplify, and then I can put things together. Okay, let's try another one. So let's say I have 2 radical 5 minus radical 20. Now remember, if you're having a hard time looking for the factors of 20, remember that we can go to the calculator. We go to y equals, put in 20 divided by x, and we take a look at the table. So just to show you, right, I go into y equals, I put in 20 divided by x, I go to my table, oh, second graph. And I'm looking for all the factors. I'm looking for the whole numbers here. So I see I have a 4 and a 5. So I'm going to break this into radical 4 times radical 5, which is actually 2 radical 5. So now I have 2 radical 5 minus 2 radical 5. Well, who would have thought that was actually going to be 0? Okay, let's try a couple more. Okay, number 7. Let's say I have radical 75 plus radical 50. So I'm going to break these two down. So 75 has a perfect square factor of 25 and 3. So this is actually 5 radical 3. And the square root of 50, break that down in 25 times 2. So this is actually 5 radical 2. And since these two are not the same, that's my answer. 5 radical 3 plus 5 radical 2. Okay, what if I have the square root of 27x plus the square root of 3x? So I'm going to break this one down. So I'm going to give you a 9 times a 3. We're going to leave that x in there. So this is going to become 3 radical 3x plus that radical 3x coming from right there. Adding those together, that's going to give me 4 radical 3x's. Okay, let's do 2 more. Let's say I have 2 radical 6 minus 3 radical 54. All right, so 6 doesn't have any perfect squares in it, so that's in the simplest radical form already. Thinking about this 54. Okay, so if you're not sure about factors of 54, go to y equals. We'll do 54 divided by x. Take a look at the table. Looking for the biggest perfect square that goes into 54, and I see I've got 6 times 9. So bringing this 3 down, radical 9, radical 6. Simplifying the perfect square. This is now 9 radical 6. All right, let's carry this down. So 2 radical 6 minus 9 radical 6 is going to give me negative 7 radical 6. Okay, last example. We have 2 radical 18y squared minus radical 12 y squared. All right, so let's break these down. So we'll bring our 2 down. This is going to be a radical 9 times 2. And now since that's an even number, we're going to put that y squared in there. This is going to then simplify 2 times 3 times y radical 2. So 6y radical 2. Now I'm going to work on the other side. I've got radical 4 times radical 3, and that's even, so it gets its own parenthesis there. So 2y radical 3. So subtracting 2y radical 3, that's going to give me a 4y. Oh, silly me. That's not going to combine at all. They don't have like radicals. That's my answer. I'm finished. All right. If you have any questions, email me and let me know, and I hope to see you all soon.